Will Asia go up in nuclear flames? That's our big question today. And we ask that because while the world's attention has been focused on Gaza and Israel, a far more dangerous conflict is being stoked along the Himalayas, the Indian Ocean and the Pacific. A recent report by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, or SIPRI, highlights the ongoing modernization and expansion of nuclear arsenals among 9 nuclear-armed countries, including India, Pakistan and China. And according to the Swedish think tank, these nuclear-armed countries have continued to modernize their nuclear arsenals, with several of them deploying new nuclear-capable weapon systems last year. But who has more nuclear bombs? To understand that, we need to take a look at the map of the world. The map on your screen shows the 9 nuclear nations of the world: the US, the UK, France, Israel, Pakistan, India, China, North Korea, and Russia. The nuclear arsenal of the US and Russia is not surprising. After all, they are Cold War era rivals. But today we live in a much more complicated world than during the Cold War, when the nuclear race was limited to 2 superpowers. Now there are many more players in the nuclear arm race. Let's just zoom into Asia. India, China and Pakistan are Asia's 3 nuclear powers, making this part of the world virtually a nuclear tinderbox. For the first time in 25 years, India's nuclear stockpile has crossed that of Pakistan's. You heard that right. According to the new SIPRI report, India now supersedes Pakistan in the nuclear weapons race. India's nuclear inventory has grown. Last year, India had 164 warheads. Today, it has 172. In fact, recent reports suggest India might be moving towards a new strategy of mating some of its warheads with their delivery systems during peacetime. This demonstrated by its deployment of missiles in canisters and conducting sea-based deterrence patrols. What does that tell you? It shows the continuous efforts that India has been making to modernize and expand its nuclear capabilities. It shows New Delhi's efforts to maintain a credible minimum deterrence strategy against regional adversaries. But how many nuclear warheads do Pakistan and China have? Pakistan, another key player in the regional nuclear balance, holds a total of 170 nuclear warheads as of 2024. It maintains consistency from the previous year's figures. Pakistan's nuclear posture is focused on countering India's conventional and nuclear capabilities. Meanwhile, China, with its expanding global influence, has a more substantial nuclear arsenal. As of 2024, China has 500 nuclear warheads in total, including 24 deployed warheads and 476 stored warheads. The Chinese military stockpile has increased to 500 from 410 in 2023. What's more, China is expanding its nuclear arsenal faster than any other country. For the first time, China may also now be deploying a small number of warheads on missiles during peacetime. Let's just return to the nuclear world map once again. What do you see? India, Pakistan and China lie in southern Asia. It's the only place on earth where 3 nuclear-armed states have recently engaged in violent confrontations along their contested borders. Now, let's be clear here. Just because countries make nuclear weapons does not mean they want nuclear war. However, the possibility still exists. Leaders in India, China and Pakistan have consistently emphasized that they view their nuclear arsenals primarily as tools of deterrence. Also, none of the region's leaders take their nuclear programs for granted. Nevertheless, a single nuclear detonation could cause massive destruction. After all, accidents can and do happen, and there is always the potential for human or technical error. The conditions are present for a serious India-Pakistan crisis, which could be sparked by just one terror attack. That's scenario one, India versus Pakistan. It is important to remember here that India and Pakistan have fought 4 conventional wars in 1947, 1965, 1971 and 1991. There have been many skirmishes. If a nuclear war were to break out between the two countries, the consequences would be major and long-lasting, affecting global society. But it is unlikely that either country will start a nuclear war because of a skirmish. While Pakistan has stated it would only use nukes if conventional warfare fails to defend itself, India has a no first use policy for nuclear weapons. Pakistan cannot also afford only to worry about its border with India. Since the Taliban swept back into power in neighboring Afghanistan, Pakistan is suffering a surge in violence on its own soil. Such violence, along with national political turmoil and economic crisis, only raises concerns about the threats to the safety and security of Pakistan's nuclear enterprise. Let's look at scenario number 2, India versus China. In the midst of the ongoing tensions between the two sides, the possibility of a return to normal relations seems uncertain as of now. Both sides have increased the deployment of powerful military forces near the disputed border, raising the risk of a potential military escalation. With tens of thousands of troops stationed nearby, the likelihood of conventional military escalation has grown significantly. While a full-blown nuclear crisis is still remote, some Indian security officials predict an increase in routine border conflicts as both sides fortify their positions. And let's not forget, the rivalry between China and India extends to the Indian Ocean, where China's expanding naval presence and influence among India's neighboring countries prompted India to seek defense partnerships with countries in the Quad alliance, consisting of Japan, Australia, and the United States. And amid these tensions, China's advancements in nuclear missiles and surveillance technology are prompting concerns among Indian defense planners. There are fears that China may be developing a first strike capability, adding to the existing strains in the region. And then there is scenario number 3. What happens if Pakistan and China, the all-weather allies so-called, combine their nuclear weapons? Where does that leave India? In the worst-case scenario, the region could enter an accelerated nuclear arms race, altering ideas of deterrence and stability. This would surely have ripple effects far beyond the region. It is no secret that the recent expansion of China's nuclear arsenal is driven by its goal of achieving great power status. It is driven by the goal of upending US influence in the Pacific. It is driven by Chinese President Xi Jinping's belief that nuclear weapons showcase Chinese power in the face of an increasingly hostile United States. China's evolving nuclear forces are oriented towards serving a strategic counterbalance mission, aiming to compel America to take a more accommodative stance towards China. Thus, deploying a larger nuclear arsenal would force Washington to genuinely respect Beijing and tread more carefully, both in peacetime and during a crisis. Just take a look at what's happening in Taiwan and the Taiwan Strait. In the end, fire seeks fire. And the question is, will the entire continent of Asia go up in flames? To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.